Okay, we're now going to talk about parts of congruent triangles. But before we can talk about congruent triangles, we need to first remember what congruent means. Congruent means same size, same shape, or equal, or the same. The word that you really need to keep in your head is equal. So if we have congruent figures, okay, congruent figures is what I said it is. It means figures that have exactly the same size and shape. Again, you should be listening to the video, so I'm not going to write it down. It should be figures that have the same size and shape. And you should write that down right here. So then if we're talking about congruent triangles, we are now going to say congruent triangles are triangles with corresponding sides, angles, congruent. So again, we will say corresponding sides and angles congruent. The most important part of this is the corresponding part. So if we're looking at example 1, we couldn't say that B was congruent to D because they're not corresponding. If you remember, corresponding angles were same seat, different pod. Remember? So if they were both in the top left corner, these were corresponding angles. These two were corresponding angles. These two were corresponding angles. They have to be in the same location, but in a different shape. So if triangle ABC is congruent to DEF, then which angles and which sides are congruent? The letters have to correspond. So this automatically tells you that A goes with D, B goes with E, and C goes with F. So I can look at the shape as well. A matches up with D, B with E, and C with F. So here, angle A would be congruent to angle D. Or we could say side AB would be congruent to side DE. And here, the order does matter. So see if you can fill the rest of those in. So then what do we do if they don't give us a shape, they just give us the statement? Well, that's also okay. For example 2, they tell us that triangle XYZ goes with triangle WMN. So now it says determine if the following statements are true or false. Notice there's not an actual triangle drawn. If you need to draw one, you can, but we just have to make sure the letters go in the same order. So triangle YZX should be congruent with triangle WMN. So we have to see, does Y go with W? Well, Y is in the middle and W is at the beginning. So automatically, this one is false. So now we can kind of do the same thing. Does Z go with N? Yes, they're both at the end. Does X go with W? Yes, they're both at the beginning. Does Y go with M? Yes, they're both in the middle. So this one would be true. So then see if you guys can do C and D on your own. So let's move on. On the bottom, it says use the given figure and the information to name 3 pairs of congruent angles and 3 pairs of congruent sides. The hard part about this one is recognizing that H goes with F, which is up here. So we would say angle E, this one here, goes with angle K, which is down here. If it helps you, you could redraw the triangle. I'll redo this one so that it goes the same direction as the other one. Like this. So now we said K goes with E, so I would put the E down here. F goes with H, so I would put H up here, and then G goes with G over here in the corner. So when we were listing the angles, we would actually say angle E, this one here, goes with angle K. And again, it matches up with our triangle. Angle H goes with angle F, and again, H with F. And then down here, we would actually say angle G is congruent to angle G. And for future reference, this is called the reflexive property. Okay, because it's the same angle congruent to the same angle. So if we were listing the sides, we would now have side GE. So segment GE is congruent to segment GK. And then GF with GH. And then the last one, we have HE with FK. Now on any of these, if I had done EH, I would have just written KF. That's not incorrect at all. So let's look on the back. On this one, they again told you which one goes with which one, here and here. So if you need to redraw, redraw and see if you can work that problem. So then let's look down here at example 5. Same thing. It's given you A to B to C. So we did the 90-degree angle to the double marked angle up to the one marked angle. So see if you can fill this in without my help. So then at the bottom, example 6, what information about triangles is shown in the drawing? So we have to actually only write down what they tell us. So they didn't say anything about angle W or angle A. So let's just start here. We know that angle D is congruent to which angle? Well, it's got to be marked with one line. So if I look over here, it's with angle U. If I keep going, I now have angle K congruent to which other angle? Good. And then we also have sides that are marked equal. So I'm going to go D to W. And that's going to be congruent to what? Now you have to be really careful. We went D to W, the one that's marked with 1 to the empty. So on the other triangle, the one that's marked with 1 has to go over to the empty. So we would say U and A. So there's one more side length that is marked congruent. See if you can find it and write it in the right order. Good. So now the last problem. It says if triangle dog is congruent to triangle cat, DO is 10, OG is 12, DG is 16, and we know that AT is 2x plus 6, solve for x. Your tendency is to do 10 plus 12 plus 16 equals 180, but that doesn't really work out. So let's go ahead and draw the two triangles just so we can kind of talk this out. I'm going to do dog. Here's D, O, G. And I started at the top, so when I draw cat, I need to do the same thing because D lines up with C. So this would be C, A, T. So now if I label DO as 10, so that's this side, OG is 12, that's this side, and DG is 16, that's this side, and AT is 2x plus 6. Now it says solve for x. Well, if these are congruent triangles as it's stated, that means this side would be equal to this side would be equal to this side, and this side would be equal to this side. So I could actually label this one 16, and I could label this one 10, and I now know that this should be 12. So I can set AT congruent to GO, or OG, sorry. So then we would say 2x plus 6 is equal to 12. And now we can use that same algebra method that I taught you guys in the last one. X's stay on the left, numbers go to the right. If we cross the equal sign, we change the sign. So this go or stay, it stays, so we would put 2x. The 6 goes, so if I cross the equal sign, it changes signs. The 12 stays, so we would leave it sign the same. And now we combine like terms. So I have 2x equals negative 6 plus 12, which is 6. And then our last step is always to divide. So I would get x equals 3. Good work.